The new Jujutsu Kaisen season is out, and I am so hyped for it. Ever since finishing season 1 and watching JJK0, I've been dying for this series to come back for a multitude of reasons, but mainly for my wife, Nobara. I called dibs, and of course, marry me, and marry me too. This episode was so hot and desirable that it leaked on torrent sites nearly 3 days early, which had people chomping at the bit for the official release. And now that it is finally here, let's get into the first episode of Jujutsu Kaisen's first new arc in years, Gojo's past arc. Also as well, happy belated 4th of July if you celebrated it. I hope you all had fun and you stayed safe. Now let's get into the video. Our first scene back actually is an anime original scene. This was not in the manga, and it shows Geto defeating a cursed spirit and then swallowing some kind of orb. This was just a really awesome scene to start off with, and I pretty much loved everything about it. It really showed off just some really good animation, to be honest. And then we get this scene where it's sort of explained to us that Mei and a young Urahime, or I guess both a young Mei, have a mission where they have to go out and deal with a cursed spirit in an abandoned building. And we get the backstory from this abandoned building. It was apparently once from the owners of a very rich family that had a lot of very good things going for them, but they screwed it up. And also Windows XP, lol. That was so funny. Also shows the time period as well, 2006. We then see the young Mei and a young and experienced Urahime investigate an abandoned building. This was a really cool part in the episode because of all of the art on display. I mean, the gritty, run-down look of an abandoned building that's full of trash, clothing, and discarded items by wasteful squatters is both creepy and dark, but also, in a strange sense, beautiful with all of the small details. They try to find the cursed spell in the building, but Urahime going it alone and splitting off is scared pretty quickly by a bunch of rats, which I thought animated was just so fluid how her reaction was. It almost looked uncanny because of how good it looked. Also, Urahime, a major cutie in the past, let me just tell you. But anyways, they investigate this building, but come to the conclusion pretty quickly that they are trapped inside of it, actually in a loop in one of the main hallways which overlap, but aren't like in a circle loop, meaning basically once they get through a lap in the hallways, it then overlaps. But to put it even simpler than that, once they get to the end of the hallway teleports back to the other end again. And I love this part because as they're talking, they're continuously walking through the hallways in a loop as the camera stays in a fixed position. It's just such a nice detail and really shows immediately what the heck is going on here without having to exactly explain it. Then Urahime figures out the trick to the spell by using a bunch of trash from like candy and sweets and stuff, which also was a really nice detail. As a person who repped some crates in the past, I got some candy just like that and they're so good. But this shows that Urahime, while still being young and inexperienced at this point, is still extremely talented and very sharp, just as always. So her idea is to basically run as fast as they possibly can through the hallways, and eventually they'll be able to break out of it and free themselves, sort of almost like a video game in a way. Also, I thought this was really cool because it reminded me of Chainsaw Man when they got trapped in the hotel, which, by the way, speaking of, I have a manga channel where I cover the newest chapters of Chainsaw Man and soon the newest chapters of Jujutsu Kaisen. So please head on over, give the channel some support and love. I would so greatly appreciate it. This actually leads to Gojo saving the day and quite literally blowing up the house they're in, which pisses off Urahime. And I love the chemistry between Gojo and Urahime here. I think Urahime in particular kind of steals the show because she's just so cute and so youthful in this scene and comes off kind of jumpy throughout, but by the end, she's, you know, kind of the same old Urahime we know and love in terms of the actions she has and how smart she is. We also get a reaction out of Mei, who is, by this point, already a grade 1 sorcerer, which I've always known she's sort of an impressive character in terms of her abilities, but even in 2006, she was already top-notch. Also, in my opinion, I love this look way more than her single braided drape over her face in season 1. She looks so cool here, which speaking of, what do you guys think about the younger designs for Urahime and Mei and the others? I'm interested to see what you guys think because I think they're actually pretty cool, but tell me which eras you prefer or if they're just both pretty good. Though I do love this part in the scene where Urahime gets so mad at Gojo, she doesn't even notice the cursed spirit, which is when Geto enters, which was a really cool transition, and saves Urahime, once again showing Urahime's youthful exuberance and inexperience and how powerful and oppressive Geto is even as a second year at this point. And I guess this is where the whole Gojo x Urahime ship begins for the two, I suppose, which I always found weird when I saw it, you know, like, I don't know, I guess for me it's just really out of place to ship Gojo with people. He seems kind of like in a caliber of his own, sort of like Geto. But this is also when we see another character as a second year, Morgue Lady, aka Shoko Ieri, aka Nobara before Nobara, or you could even say Nobara's real mother here, because man, their haircuts are so similar. But what was so surprising is how youthful she looks compared to season 1, where she has the long hair, looks really unhealthy and pale, and has bags under her eyes. Makes me wonder how she got that way from the lackadaisically look she has here to, well, to the unhealthy look she has in season 1. Also, the face she makes when Urahime hugs her is priceless. It's so adorable. I also loved right after this how they forget to put up the curtains, which is like a really important concept that I'm glad they sort of explain here. Basically, I imagine this is what will probably start the main conflict of this arc, or maybe a future arc, because of Gojo's carelessness. Other people will find out about this whole incident that they just went through. At least that's my 2 cents. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but that's my theory. So this leads into a really interesting conversation between Gojo and Geto, which Shoko runs away from. I thought that was really cute and funny, but Gojo talks about how it's a pain looking out for the weak, but Geto here says that society itself should protect the weak and keep the strong in check, which makes sense as that balances out society and keeps the strong from getting a big head and thinking that they're more powerful than the people who are in power, which is ultimately, should be at the very least, society at large, aka the people. To Geto, the Jujutsu exists to protect the non-Jujutsu, which Gojo sees as being righteous, and I think Gojo is right, as what he just said about the society keeping the strong in check kind of contradicts the statement that Jujutsu sorcerers are there to protect the non-Jujutsu. He's right generally, Geto is, but except for that small detail that applying reasoning and responsibility to Jujutsu is what weak people do, I mean, that's not correct, because if you let unchecked power go rampant, then what's the point of having checks and balances like Geto said in the first place? It's very weird logic. After they get into a fight, the two are then called in for a mission briefing in which it will be these two together going to escort a girl who is the apparent star plasma vessel found by Master Tengen. Their job is to find her and basically erase her, but to be more specific, Master Tengen has like immortality, but it doesn't stop his aging process, which is a really awesome concept. So eventually the curse technique and immortality will try to autonomously change bodies and basically during that ascend to a higher state if there is no star plasma vessel, which sounds really complicated, but basically think of it as evolving. So this is all important because without Tengen, it could expose Jujutsu tech to vulnerabilities, possibly making them an enemy to humanity. So carrying out this transfer is important because without the transfer, he will basically cease to exist. So once every 500 years, he basically switches bodies with a compatible star plasma vessel, aka this girl bathing in milky looking water. I see you, simps. I know what you're looking at. Though now 2 groups are after the vessel because of this. The curse user group Q, which are trying to overturn Tengen, and the other group that worships Tengen as a deity, the Time Vessel Association, which honestly sounds like a business name more than anything. So in 2 days, he will merge with the vessel, and so they must escort the girl to Tengen in that time, hence why they must escort and erase her, as he says. To make matters worse, if they screw up, this will greatly affect society as a whole. And this leads into our final part of this episode, which is just so freaking good. So on their mission, they immediately have to act as the vessel is attacked by Group Q and she falls from her building, which Geto then runs, jumps out a window, and catches her with a cursed spirit. It is so freaking cool looking. This is amazingly an animated sequence, which of course is just another reason to love the wizards over at MAPPA. They're freaking animation wizards, man. But Gojo, on the other hand, is attacked by a Q soldier, And oh my god, this part's cool too. He stops blades in mid-air, which is such an awesome visual and shows how powerful Gojo is, but also how cocky he is, especially at this age. Though, this leads to the final moments when we see, apparently, a man who is a part of the Zenin clan? Who now goes by Fushiguro after getting married and taking his wife's name, of course. But apparently these two want to assassinate the vessel? But for what reason? This guy straight up looks like a badass though, especially with the cut on his face and lip and the cool, sleek black attire he's wearing. He just looks so freaking awesome. Can't wait to see him. I imagine we're going to see him in the next episode. But I want to hear from you guys. What did you think about the first episode of the season? The animation truly was killer in this episode, and I think lived up to its promise, and I am so excited to see Fushiguro in action. Also, how do you guys think this arc will play out? Who is Fushiguro, and why did he leave the Zenin clan, and why does he want to assassinate the vessel? Does he have any relation to Maki or Mai? If you haven't, please check out my recap on Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1 and JJK 0 if you need to be caught up with the events so far of this season. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye-bye.